Emotions that have boiled over, causing violent conflict in Ukraine, have been caused by several political factors, and they have only been exacerbated by ethnic tensions among the population. However, this conflict is also generational. Using data collected from the 2021 Human Freedom Index, I have determined how over 165 countries are ranked according to how free it is viewed by various human rights groups. Data from Wikipedia was compiled to determine the approximate age of every international leader, with several exceptions. Using these two sets of data, have revealed several numbers that show the relationship between the age of a leader within the country and how free the country actually is. The data revealed when a country or region has older leadership politically, it will typically experience less freedom. According to the map, South America, Europe, and the countries that make up Oceania are more free than the continents of Asia, Africa, and a region known as the Middle East. There are several exceptions, for example, the United States, even with 79-year-old Joe Biden as its president, is still ranked pretty high at number 15 on the Human Freedom Index. There are several African countries as well with leaders who are only in their late 30s, but these are the result of violent military takeovers. The ages of various leaders have revealed fascinating stories about the direction a country wishes to take, whether it seeks strength from its past or chooses a younger leader to chart a new course for the country's future. That battle isn't more evident than in the countries that have made up the former Soviet Union. According to the chart, there is a strong correlation between the age of a leader and how free that country is, according to the Human Freedom Index. Countries in Central Asia have older leadership, which has translated to the population experiencing less freedom overall than in the countries in the Caucasus Mountain region and Eastern Europe. For example, Kazakhstan had massive protests at the beginning of the year over a gas tax that spiraled into a more popular rebellion against a Russia-friendly government. The government then proceeded to ask for foreign assistance from Russia and its allies to help crush a popular revolt. The situation in the Caucasus Mountain region is different. Georgia decided to take a more democratic path politically in the mid-2000s. Younger leadership promoted a more independent Georgia, not influenced by Russia's foreign policy. Their punishment by Russia, an invasion of two breakaway regions to break Georgia apart and weaken its response. However, Georgia's voters have only responded by electing candidates who support democratic values within the country.
Georgia inaugurated a new president on Sunday. Georgy Margvelashvili is a 44-year-old philosopher and former university rector. He's pledged to strengthen the former Soviet Republic's ties with the West and maintain its commitment to NATO.
In Eastern Europe, we are seeing the ultimate generational clash between leaders who grew up in the Soviet era and leaders who grew up in a post-Soviet world where their country formed its own unique identity separate to that of Russia. We are seeing 67-year-old Alexander Lukashenko of Belarus support Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, while the Ukrainian people have elected 44-year-old Volodymyr Zelensky, a former comedian and actor, to lead Ukraine during this time of war. In the year 2022, leaders who are in their 40s will have been born sometime during the 1980s. This means that during their adolescent and teenage years, Eastern Europe underwent a profound political transformation when the Soviet Union broke apart in 1991. Education during this time moved away from communist propaganda and political misinformation to a more inclusive education, beneficial to the development of free thought. This has led to several countries to diverge onto a path that will lead away from Russian influence. This has caused concern in Moscow as the West strengthens partnerships with Eastern European countries. Further west in Europe, German leader Olaf Scholz represents the wishes of German millennials and their children who have only ever known of a unified Germany, instead of a Germany broken apart under Russian occupation. In Africa, the continent has been dominated by leaders who came of age during the end of the colonial era or soon after. Ethiopia is one of the few countries in Africa to have a leader in their mid-40s. Abiy Ahmed has many ambitious plans and reforms for Ethiopia. Electing younger leadership will help the continent move on from the brutality of the colonial past. South America is another continent that seems to prove youthful leadership leads to a more free society. Chile made history by electing 35-year-old Gabriel Boric, its youngest president ever. Born in 1986, he never knew of the brutal crackdowns on left-wing activists during the autocratic rule of its former dictator that ended in 1990. He has only witnessed its gradual transformation into a middle-income country that ranks the highest on the continent on the Human Freedom Index at 28. Supporters elected him because they believe he can use his youthful energy to convince the country to move in the direction of how many Scandinavian countries operate. Meanwhile, Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro is nearly twice his age, and the country has been burdened by a collapsing economy and poor relations with the West. On the other side of the world, New Zealand has a great reputation for a high standard of living and a high degree of freedom. It has also been one of the few places left on Earth still adopting a zero-COVID approach. This country's success is due to the leadership of 41-year-old Jacinda Ardern. As I have said throughout the video, I believe youthful leadership might be what our country needs at the moment. Think of what America was like while Joe Biden and Donald Trump were spending their time in college. We should consider whether we want a president who came of age during the dawn of the internet, or if we want a leader who came of age during the dawn of integration. This is what American voters should consider when voting in future elections. Now that wraps up a summary of one of my biggest concerns about this country's leadership.